Hi, my name is Daniela. Welcome to my channel. This video is going to be a little bit different than what I typically post, different from a lot of the real estate content. I've been being led to share my testimony and just my journey with God and kind of seeing what He's done for me personally, a little bit of my journey, testimonies, and whatever else I am led to share. So when I was going to film my testimony, I'll be honest, I've been putting it off. And I was planning on filming it, and I was going to do it in a vacant home. Just because it was going to be more aesthetic. I just got done with a networking event, and I am in a shopping center parking lot, and this is where God led me to come, and this is where I'm filming. So a little bit of my background. Grew up Catholic, was baptized as a baby, but we weren't really, I didn't have a relationship with God. I was always a believer, but I didn't have a relationship. Around 2020, 2021, I was getting more into spirituality, where I was learning a little bit more about chakras, and kind of just diving into more new age. So I had a friend that introduced me into crystals. She got me a pendulum. We played around with tarot a little bit and kind of more spiritual type of stuff, which now I know it's clearly it's new age, it's not of God. And so I got my real estate license in 2021. So I just had my energy was shifted. I felt like I was stepping into the new. I was becoming who I wanted to be, trying to manifest my goals and what I wanted. And as I was dabbling still within new age, I can contest the fact that God never left my side. He's always had His hand over me, even when I was dabbling into new age. When I got my real estate license, I noticed a lot of people were supportive in my new venture. And then as I started really trying to build that momentum, I started noticing people making snarky comments. And these are people that I thought would be supportive. I started praying, and I don't remember the exact time frame of when I still was dabbling into new age, but I was praying more. And I was praying for just continue my faith, my strength to be able to power through the market. And I remember praying that removal prayer: if it's not for me, remove it. And remove and purge me of anything that does not serve me. Well, that prayer kind of led me into an interesting transition. So we have the real estate market that shifted, and so my business was impacted, especially as a newer agent. I'm having things removed left and right. I had a ton of spiritual warfare. I had people who were close to me tell me that I wasn't going to be successful. And just people just kind of, I felt like I was being bashed left and right. And that's when I really started noticing that I was having more prophetic dreams. And some of them have come to pass since then, or there's been some revelation of them. I'm not going to go into every detail of every dream that I've had, especially if it hasn't come to pass. I'm not going to share it. I was living with my brother, and so I wasn't sure where I wanted to go. Moved back in with my parents, and so I was I put it out to the universe of where should I go? And so I remember I signed up for this account. I think it was called Trusted House Sitters, where you're basically out there, you are booking dog sitting gigs in a sense. Essentially, it's like Airbnb, but you're taking care of their pet. Born and raised in San Diego. And at that time, I'm going into the office several times a week. So I wanted something within a reasonable distance. Every dog sitting gig that I applied in San Diego, I was not picked. But the ones in Orange County were. So I did that on and off for a few months, and then I prayed about it. And I was asking God, I was like, okay, let me just test the market in Orange County. Where do you want me? So I prayed about certain things that I was looking for. I wanted a short-term rental, along with a couple other things. And just like that, I found a place where it was going to be like a short-term sublease. The place was cute. It was girly. I did a mistake. I shared that with two people that did not want me to move to Orange County. Fell apart. A little side note. So I went to Cal State Long Beach, that was 10 years prior. And I was not living, when I was in school, I was not living in Long Beach. I was living in Orange County. That falls apart, and I'm looking for other ones, and I'm praying about like something specific that I'm looking for. And again, I want short term. I don't want to sign a lease. I'm not committed to a certain area. I'm just like, God, where are you sending me? And so, but I'm still dabbling in New Age while trying to grow my relationship with God. Around this time is when I kind of start listening more to, I stumbled upon Shantia Deja, is one of the creators that I started following, and she got me closer to God. So love her and follow her to this day. So fast forward, I was like, God, where are you taking me? I was staying with my parents at that time while I was doing a little bit of the dog sits and whatnot, trying to figure out where to go. And so I was like, I'm going to leave my furniture there. I still have potential business pending in San Diego. So I'm going to keep my stuff there and then go to Orange County, and it's just a short drive away. So I kind of start looking into it again, and everything, it just kept getting blocked. And I was like, okay, maybe I'm not looking in the right city. I am led to this specific city, and I was like, it wasn't on my radar, to say the least. So one day I'm just searching again. I want a furnished rental. I don't want to deal with the move. I don't want the commitment. I'm like, let me just test the area, even if I live in these different little areas for a bit, and it gets me reacquainted with Orange County. And so I'm searching, and I'm like, I keep coming across the same websites. I feel it in my spirit to check, and it's like page 12, something like that, went further into the Google search. I stumble upon this website called Furnish Finder. And so I'm like, okay, let me see what's on there. So again, I pray about it. This is what I'm looking for. Find this place, and basically it's available right away. I go take a look at it. I'm getting ready to sign something, and they're gonna email me the stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'll take care of it when I get home. Mind you, actually, let me go back. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna apologize in advance. The story might be a little bit all over the place because I didn't write down notes. I'm just kind of trying to be Holy Spirit led and sharing whatever He leads me to share. My brother also has his real estate license, and he had gotten a call from an investor that he was looking for properties in two different cities in Orange County. So I was driving around the first one, trying to find, there were certain specific things that I was looking for the properties, right? So I'm driving around, I'm getting acquainted with the city. Next, I'm looking on to, I thought I was going to move into the second city. So I did the first one first, and I was like, the second one, I'm going to start looking. And then once I move here, it'll just be easy to just continue the search. So when I'm looking in that second city, everything keeps getting blocked. I'm like, okay, let me expand the radius a little bit more. These cities are within Orange County, probably about 30 minutes away from each other. when I spent the radius and started looking, that's how I stumbled upon that furnished finder. And I come and I look at this property again. I was going to sign it. And just I felt it in my spirit, like, don't sign, just wait. After I got home from checking out the first one, I get an email from someone, and she's like, hey, I'm getting ready to sublease my place. This is what it is. It's going to be ready in about like 2 days, maybe, give or take. She's like, I'm just trying to finish cleaning it up. If you want to come by tomorrow, you can see it, and then we can go from there. So the next day, I didn't sign actually, I take that back. It was in 2 days. So I was going to drive back up, and I was like, let me go look at it. If this is the one for me, make it crystal clear. If not, I'm going to go get a cashier's check and put my deposit on the one I had seen initially. The first one I saw initially was like walking distance of the beach, but it was tiny. It felt like you were basically living out of a little extended stay type of thing. Actually, it was smaller than that. It was tiny. Where I was like, it's gonna feel like I'm living out of a suitcase, and I'm not gonna feel at home. The other one was much more spacious. It was cozy. I was able to bring most of my stuff. So I get there, and so we're chatting it up, and basically she does a background check, credit check, and we're good to go. It's already late afternoon, and she's like, if you want it, she's like, it'll be ready tomorrow, probably around noonish. She's like, I'll text you tonight, and then just bring me the check, and I'll give you the keys. And I'm like, okay. It was seamless. The only caveat was I had to keep a low profile. In that season of my life, God had pulled me into hidden in plain sight season, basically. I'm so healing. I'm so kind of growing and developing my relationship with God. So it actually, looking back, I was like, it was perfect. Fast forward, we get caught. Had to go find something else. Mind you, I want to say maybe a week or two prior, God put it in my spirit to start looking at more like home office inspo and other housing options before she even told me. This was probably about 2 weeks before. I was like, God, if it's your will, I was like, if you've got another furnished place for me. So I find this place. I was looking for a couple of them. Again, I was like, am I ready to commit in this area? What is it, right? So eventually I ended up finding this place. It's the back house. And it's a residential area. The family that was there, that were on the main house, they were the sweetest. So I didn't feel 100% safe in the previous place that I was at. And so safety was a big thing. The rooms were a little bit small, but I was able to separate like my bedroom space versus my office space. So some of the like office inspo that I had gotten kind of was for the new place. And I was living by myself. It was really good for my healing, just being on my own. And they also had dogs. I believe they had 3 dogs. It was just nice. One of them would used to come to my side yard and just kind of come and hang out and say hi. Great family. But it was also on the pricier side. So I'm like, okay, I'm ready. I was like, if this is where you want me, I got you, God. I was like, where are you taking me next? Make it crystal clear what it is that you have for me. And I feel it in my spirit to talk about something. So rewind a few months prior. And I'm sorry, this video is probably going to be all over the place. While I'm still in this place, and mind you, I had been in Orange County probably for a few months, and so I'm going to these different places to like build community. A lot of my friends from back home, it was one of those where you kind of see them every few months, but I didn't hang out with them too much. I had a few friends in LA that I was seeing them, but they were more like party friends or like the occasional dinners. So I was like, I was looking for my community. So I was friends with some other realtors in my office, but it was all like surface level friendships. So I'm going to these different type of events. I'm on some of these local Facebook groups, and I did a lot of things outside of my comfort zone. Of course, I prayed over it. I prayed for protection, for discernment if this something wasn't for me. I'm going to these type of events, one, to just kind of build community, but also I'm there to like prospect and get real estate business. And I did a handful of these new age type of events where they're doing sound baths. They're going in and doing like a moon circle events and type of stuff like that. Again, you're dabbling into new age versus Jesus. So one night, half asleep, and I got up to use the restroom. Not turning on my light, and I crawled back into bed. I had a blanket and it was kind of slippery, so I ended up falling off the bed. The floor was tile and I hit my head. And I was scared to go to sleep. I had a long conversation with God. I'm not going to get into the details of all of that, but it's basically me trying to surrender, thinking I'm surrendering to his will for me, while I'm still doing new age. So fast forward, and so actually I'm doing these events, right? So and there's a lot of drinking involved. I had gotten like the binge drinking for my early 20s and the partying out of my system, but I would still occasionally go to dinner, and then we're having 2-3 drinks at dinner, or we're going to events and you're having 1 or 2 drinks. So if you add it up, it's still a lot of drinking throughout the week. So, and it was also a little bit of a stress reliever on my end. And it's something that I used to do it where I would pop a bottle of wine when I was cooking, and I would put some music on, and it was a vibe. I was out in the field or doing some sort of prospecting. It was my way of decompressing when I got home. So I end up having, I guess, a concussion. I didn't feel the effects right then and there. They came a little bit later. I had a dream, and but that dream, I was like, I gotta get out there. So I'm in this neighborhood. Looking back, my body also rejected this particular neighborhood, but I got a really bad case of vertigo. While I don't remember how long I was there, I just remember this place was about 5-10 minutes away from my house. So I immediately get into my car, go in a state of prayer, and get home. And I laid down, and it was interesting, and literally God had me. It was like a mini spiritual reset. I wasn't having vertigo symptoms when I was in my word, or when I was journaling, praying, listening to sermons. Any other time, I had the vertigo symptoms. And it was one of those where I was like, it was really good for me spiritually. Over the years, God has revealed a lot of things to me through dreams, synchronicities, and everything, but I was not documenting any of that. I was keeping all up here. And so during that span, I went back and I'm like, okay, let me pull up my old planners. Let me see if there was anything. And I started documenting. But I documented that prophetic dream literally right before the vertigo kicked in. And just started, I went back and trying to remember certain dreams. And I went back like 2 years of things that had happened and really started documenting certain things. After that, so during this whole time, I'm out of commission, essentially work-wise. Not a lot of people knew what was going on. Like, to this day, my mom doesn't know. If you have a Hispanic mom that don't play about your safety, she would have not let me leave her side. So she doesn't know, and I wasn't going to share this for that reason. So after my spiritual reset, I immediately have to go into hustle mode, making up for lost time. And again, looking back, I'm grateful for my spiritual reset, but I'm like, okay, I still got money in the bank, but I go into hustle mode. I start cold calling again, trying to get myself back out there. I go back into that neighborhood again. Every time I try to go back into that particular neighborhood, my body just wouldn't, I would get just my body rejecting it. It's interesting, and that's, maybe I need to do another video about how my body reacts to certain things that I know are not for me, or how my body repels it. But I get this opportunity to work with this team. This team, the team lead, is one of the biggest heavy hitters in Southern California. So I was praying for like just mentorship. I wanted another coach. I have this great opportunity. It's putting myself back out there. Mind you, my lease is up like a week after the program ends. So I'm trying to do all this stuff where I'm trying to have the 100 conversations. I'm doing the class. I'm doing all these activities to grow my business. And I don't know where I'm going to live. The living situation was great, but it was just pricey. So I was like, I need to be a better steward of my finances. And not knowing where the market was, I was like, I want to be more conservative. So they told me, I had the option to continue extending. I gave them the day of the lease. Technically, when I moved in, I believe it was the 18th. So I was like, okay, just one more month. It'll be on the 18th. I felt it in my spirit the 8th, but I told them the 18th. And I'm like, okay, maybe I'm in my head about something. But I clearly heard the 8th. So again, I'm looking at all these different places of where to go, and again, I'm like, God, do you want for another furnished place? Am I ready to commit here? Like, what do you have for me? So, and I'm on these different Facebook groups looking at places, and I'm open to have a roommate. I was like, I don't have to live by myself. So I was like, let me shoot my shot. So I emailed a couple people. There was one girl that we connected. She had an interesting situation. I don't want to share her business, and I don't want to put it all out there unless God leads me to share certain details. So she found this house. I'm like, it's great. And she also has a dog. So again, I get the perks of having a dog in the house. And I'm big on signs and confirmation. So she traveled a lot for work. So I was showing it to another potential roommate. It was a 3-bedroom house. So I prayed that prayer. I was like, God, if this isn't the roommate for me, I asked him to show me red cars. So I pulled up to the house. I don't remember the very first time if I saw a bunch of red cars or if there was only one. So show up, and just something about the vibe, I didn't feel comfortable with this person. I tell her, and so we decided we're not going to move forward with that person, but we still move forward with getting the house. It took us a long time. They wouldn't tell us whether or not we got approved. And I know for me personally, I was like, I don't have a stable job. I was like, it's not stable. I was like, it's commission based. So we ended up getting approved, I think probably like 2 weeks later. At that point, it was kind of like I had prayed about it, and I remember telling God, I was like, okay, well, it looks like this is the person that you want me to live with, so I'm okay. I was like, if this house doesn't work for us, and if you don't have someone else to fill the other room, I trust you, and maybe there's another place that you have for us. I probably should have confirmed that that was the right roommate he had for me. So we move in. And so I've hung out with this girl before. So we've had coffee, we've interviewed potential roommates before, and so forth. So I've been in constant communication with this girl probably on and off for about a month at this point. And so then we get the green light. I was like, we got the house, we got approved for it. So I'm like, okay, cool. But then our move-in date, the owners wanted us in there sooner, so they couldn't wait until the 18th. So the move-in date, when we were submitting it, was the 8th. One detail I forgot to mention, when I moved in from the first 2 other rentals I was in, the moving day, there was sprinkling, specifically between like the last round of getting stuff. There was a little bit of sprinkling, and I remember the day after I moved everything into the second place, it was raining, and later it started pouring. So new beginnings, and just cleansing. So I noticed, I was like, okay, well, there was no rain, or for this particular move, I was like, maybe I'm no longer, like, you've really taken me out of my hidden in plain sight, and you're going to pull me in a different direction. So I had felt it in my spirit to connect with another realtor friend who happened to be an old accountability partner. And when I'm back in this house, or when we just moved into that house, I felt it in my spirit to hit her up again and reconnect. We move in, everything's back into the swing of things, and it's great, right? So we haven't filled the 3rd bedroom, so we're paying extra to cover the other room until we find someone for it. And again, I'm praying. I was like, God, I don't want I don't want to fill the room just to fill the room. I want whoever you have for us. And the other girl, the original roommate, she's traveling a lot for work, so I'm getting the perks of like kind of living by myself, but then she's there too at times. And so the interesting thing was, and I noticed it over a period of several months, when she was out of town, this is where I'm a social butterfly, and I'm going to these different events, meeting different people, and I'm just out there hustling. When she's back in town, a lot of my plans and everything else would dry up. Like, things would get rescheduled, things would cancel, just things would fall apart. And I'm like, okay. But I'm constantly always praying that removal prayer. So I was like, is there something with her that is blocking it, and there's a reason why you have me home? Or does it have something to do with the people in the activities that I'm pursuing? There's another person that comes in. The roommate told me she was very health conscious, so she was big into working out. She had done a fitness challenge, so she wasn't a drinker and having anything of it. I told her I was a social drinker. I'll occasionally pop up a bottle of wine if I'm cooking. And so I didn't think anything of it. We had gone out to dinner, and there were times where I was like, I sometimes ordered a drink, sometimes I didn't. Again, it's not my business to get into her story and her reasoning behind it. There ends up being a lady that had met at a networking event that I connected with. We hit it off. She invited me, so she's a little bit older, but she's connected. So for me, for a networking standpoint, she was good for me to have in my circle or have that connection with her. So she invited me to this pub crawl, and I'm like, okay, I'll go. I was like, it's just gonna, I'm only there to make an appearance. I'll hang out for a little bit. I was like, and so we go. She had won this fitness competition. And she brings home a bottle of champagne. So she popped a bottle of champagne and celebrating that she won her competition. So I'm like thinking to myself, I was like, okay, she's drinking. I'm like, okay. Again, it's none of my business. So I kind of just left it at that. We're going to this pub crawl. And she gets wasted. We left early. And I personally thought when I go out, I'm not there to get to meet. I'm there just to have a good time. If I meet people, cool. If I don't, I don't. I'm just there just to enjoy myself. And I also don't put that validation. I don't need to be validated. I don't need to be hit on every time I go out. But I did notice that she was making comments about some of the girls and some of the outfits they were wearing. And because what they were wearing, they were gravitating more attention. I'm like, I just don't care. And I was like, if that's not you, like, why are you going to dress up and portray to be someone that you're not? I don't know why God's having me highlight this, but if be you, be your authentic version of you. You don't have to try to be someone else to get people to like you. And you don't need that validation from other people. Whether it's friends, relationships, people from the opposite sex, family, you don't need that validation. You are enough. Okay. So I just remember seeing that she just, how her energy shifted when she wasn't getting that male attention. Fast forward a few weeks later, I'm on a Zoom call with my team. And I get a knock on my door. Let me rewind. So I want to say a week after that event, I heard God told me that she's an alcoholic. And I seriously, when I heard that, and I was like, God, wait, what did you tell me? What? So I kept her in my prayer in that sense, but I was like, did I kind of questioning, did I hear correctly? And I was in complete disbelief. Like, I was like, what are you telling me, God? So this was probably a week after that pub crawl we went to. So I also decided to add on another prayer to it, and I prayed for God to reveal her true colors. I wanted her character to be revealed to me. Not just her, but the other roommate in the house. That's also a dangerous prayer, and sometimes I feel like it's more dangerous than the removal prayer. So then a week later, that's when the mom knocks at my door, and she's like, hey, and then she's like, I wanted to let you know that we came and picked her up, and we're gonna take her home. She's actually suffering from, she's an alcoholic, and she's been like suffering from this for X amount of time, and tells me a little bit more about her history with her battle with her addiction. And then I realized, okay, God, you were telling me, and I just didn't believe it. And you don't really understand, you don't know why sometimes people are put in your spirit and why you're supposed to pray for them. You might not always understand, and you don't need to know the details of why you have to be there and intercede on their behalf. And so when God puts someone in your spirit, whether it's to check in on them or pray for them, do it. So that happens. He's gone for maybe like a week or two, goes into some sort of treatment. So at that point, I give her mom my contact information. Call me if there's anything, keep me posted. If there's anything that I can do, let me know. So I'm in communication with her mom a little bit. And I was like, there's going to be no alcohol in the house, and that's no problem. So whatever I had that was in the kitchen, I just took it. I didn't dispose of it. Some of it, I think one of them was like a brand new bottle of champagne, and I literally just put it in my bathroom cabinet, and it was tucked in there. And I was, she didn't have a lot of friends in the area that she was close with. She mostly had, she hung out with her ex-boyfriend basically, or if she had some sort of romantic interest. So I was the one that was there. I was there as a friend. Relapses over a period of a few months. So it happened again. So I think she came home. And it's not my business to share what caused her to relapse. And part of a little bit of my own trauma, part of me kind of just blurred out and blacked out some of the details that happened during that period. I just remember when she was back in the house, when she wasn't traveling for work and she was home, a lot of my things that I had going on would either get delayed, or just things we had to just reschedule. And looking back, I can see that I was supposed to be there to kind of be there as moral support in a sense. And looking back at it too, I witnessed it a lot. I remember there was one particular instance where I was supposed to be out the entire day. We had broker preview, and I had a Pilates class earlier that morning. So when I was coming home, I typically will just jump in the shower, get ready, and run out the door. That particular day, I felt it in my spirit to go run a quick errand. And the reason that happened was when I was coming in to bring in my bags, I crossed paths with her and I was like, something's off. And then her mom confirmed that. She's like, she's been drinking for the last few days. I remember I had a listing appointment that afternoon. That was probably about 30 minutes out, and then I was having dinner with a new friend. I think her tenants had pushed out the date that they were fully moving out, so we had to push back that meeting. And then my friend later said something happened with one of her kids, so that meetup was pushed out. I think we met up the following week, I think. So I'm like, okay, I'm home, but I felt it in my spirit, don't go to broker preview. And I'm not gonna lie, I was annoyed because I was like, I had both of these things fall apart, and again, I'm always I'm always praying that removal prayer. So I was like, if things are being removed, I trust that it's for a reason and it's for my protection. I might not understand it, why it's happening, but there's always some sort of divine redirection. So that happens. And again, I had crossed paths with her. Something was off. And her mom tells me to check in on her. And I end up calling the paramedics. Mind you, at this point, she had a dog that was really well behaved, and then she had a puppy who was not potty trained. I agreed to have her get a puppy if it was going to be more of an emotional support animal to help her navigate her recovery. I call the paramedics, and I'm over here trying to like watch her puppy, take care of her puppy, the other dog, and kind of try and take care of her. And if I would have gone to my listing appointment and then would have gone out to dinner with my friend, after, I'm like, I would have been home late. I wouldn't have been able, I was like, our mom probably would have been able to call the paramedics, but they would have probably broken down the door, and then the dogs would have been running free. So my life felt like it was chaos for several months. And And I will say, I never really had peace in this house. I know the approval was from God, but he was also teaching me a lesson. So mind you, I had said that I was going on all these like happy hours, meeting different people, networking, and I'm using drinking a little bit as a coping mechanism every time I'm being, I guess, rejected, cussed out, or hung up on the phone when I'm cold calling. So it was kind of to show me, God was showing me, if you continue to go down this path, this is what you're going to turn into. This is what your life can look like. And mind you, this girl had everything going for her. She had just landed her dream job, but because the homeboy that was in her life kept causing her to spiral. And if you would have met her in person, and if you would have interacted with her when she wasn't in the middle of a spiral, you would have never guessed it. I like to say I think my discernment is pretty good, and I can generally get a good feel of people and their energy. But this one got me completely blindsided. So eventually I get to the point where I was like, God, I can't keep doing this. I'm ready to I can't live here anymore. The house is a mess. The puppy pooped on the couch, and I had to clean it up, or the numerous times that I had to clean up the puppy's accidents throughout the house. And I think it's different, right? It's different if it's your pet because you took on that responsibility. Where now I'm like, I feel like I'm helping her, but I'm creating some sort of resentment towards her, because I was like, here, now I have to reshift everything that I've got going on and put everything on hold to make sure that she's good. I think part of it was feeling guilty because I was involved. I was there when she relapsed the very first time, because I was the one that invited her out to this pub crawl that I was going. And I'm like, it was literally just to make an appearance. To hang out with someone for a little bit, and it spiraled. So fast forward, I finally hit the breaking point. And so at this point, we're kind of talking, and I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I was like, I couldn't with the other roommate. I was like, this just isn't for me. I'm gonna look for something else. She tells me she's exploring a job opportunities out of state. And I was like, okay, well, if she's leaving, then I'm like, I'll stay and we'll figure out what to do with her. But I was like, I'll suck it up for a little bit to make sure she's good and we get her situated. My background's in HR. I kind of helped her through some of the negotiation of her job offer and relocation agreement. So I do hit the breaking point where I did raise my voice, and I was like, I can't, like, you got to go, like, I can't do this anymore. There were several relapses over a span of months where it was a lot. And I'm like, I couldn't do it anymore. I called her mom, and I'm like, you guys have to come get her. She later spiraled again because she hadn't heard back from the potential job offer. And I told her, I was like, it's a new role. They typically never offered relocation before, so they're trying to figure out some sort of assignment, like agreement. And if that doesn't work out, you still have the other opportunity. And then I'm also helping her through trying to navigate some sort of leave of absence with her current job so that she doesn't lose her job for. So eventually she ends up moving. That accountability partner, that real estate friend that I had mentioned that I had reconnected with, she moves to the state where she's originally from, and my friend is still licensed an active realtor in that state. So my friend actually helps her navigate and helps her buy a home in that state. So this is also, it's crazy how sometimes some of these things kind of that you're going through and how people kind of come together. So that happened. So I'm like, now she's out of the house. We decided ultimately that the other person wasn't a good fit, and so she left previously. So again, so we have that room that we have to fill, and now I kind of just jumped the gun and told the other girl, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Because I already knew that she was leaving, and I also didn't trust her judge of character to find a replacement, I'm like, okay, let me take the lead. So I have that where I'm like trying to fill 2 rooms for rent. By the grace of God, in divine timing, he sends someone who like is an angel. This person takes the smaller bedroom. And so we have the bigger one, and I'm like, crap, how am I going to pay for this? I was like, I've already paid several months for the other bedroom in between roommates. So how are we going to pay for this? And to the point where I was like, okay, God, I surrender. I was like, clearly I haven't had peace in this house since I moved in. So I listed the house completely. I was like, take it for rent. I'm like, I'll figure it out. I'll crash somewhere. I'll go back to my parents. I don't know, something. I remember telling a friend of mine who was saying, I was like, maybe this is my cue. Maybe I just need to go back to San Diego. Maybe this isn't for me. Clearly everything feels like it's falling apart. The minute I said that and I listed the place, and I talked to the person, and I was like, do you want to go? I was like, we're gonna have to find something else. I was like, I can't keep paying for, it's an extra $2,400 a month. This person, when I say by the grace of God, I call it the property management company. I'm like, hey, like, we can't pay rent. Like, we're not going to be able to cover that portion. So what are the next steps, like, to terminate our lease? Or that means I just got to find someone to take over the lease completely. So I tell the other roommate that. The other roommate steps up and was like, okay, hey, if that means he's, so that they don't have to go and find another place and move. They also had relocated from out of state, so they were new to the area. And so this person stepped up and covered that bedroom for months. Like, that's God. You cannot tell me that's not God making sure, because he knew that if I left the house, I was gonna leave Orange County. And it's literally God's hand over it. So after we got the room situated, it's interesting how we kept showing the room numerous times, and there was some sort of blockage. And again, I would always pray that prayer of, is this the roommate that you have for us? And if it's not, don't let them get approved, remove it. And we would had a ton of scheduled showings, or a ton of interest, especially because of the location of where this house is. And God kept blocking it. But the other person really stepped up and helped cover the rent while that room was vacant for months and months at a time. Really, at this point, mind you, when I moved into this particular house, I threw away the sage that I had. I still had the crystals and the pendulum, but I think I had them tucked away. I didn't use them, but they were there. I was talking to 2 of my friends, and they were like, no, you have to throw them away. And again, I'm praying that removal prayer. So at this point, again, I'm having people removed from my life left and right. And again, and more people showing their character to me. And God's revealing to me that they're not really your friends, or they're not really for you. Or they're there for what you can do for them, but they're not genuinely there for you. But again, a lot of this stuff is happening while I have the chaos from the roommate, the house drama. So I also believe that sometimes if they're doing really well in their life and they have things that are going for them, that the chaos that I had surrounding me would affected them. So you have to remember that not just who you're connected to can affect you, but it's just also you have to ask yourself, who are they connected to? Because that can also come back to you and affect you. I'm watching, so I had mentioned earlier, I was listening to Shantia Deja, watching her videos, and I had stumbled upon, I was watching Elevation Church. Mind you, so in real estate, a lot of times you're working weekends. So I was streaming Elevation Church in the morning on Sunday as I'm getting ready to either show properties or do an open house. So I'm catching that, and then over time I'm coming across other like Christian content creators. At this point, I've been reading my Bible, I would say consistently for probably, at this point, it was probably about 6 months, if not longer, consistently. My friend was telling me about that I really have to get inside the church. She's like, the sermons and everything, that's great, and it's great that you're in your word, but you need to be in a church and get connected. So, and mind you, so I'm driving around all the time, but I drive around all these churches and none of them call me. And I come from, when I thought about religion, I just thought about church, going to church and everyone being really judgmental. But it was more of everyone all had their skeletons in the closet, but portrayed to be holy. And that's just what I perceived, and that's what kept me away from the church for so long. So I asked God, and I was like, okay, God, where do you want me to go? What church? I've driven around. There's nothing. None of them call me. Make it crystal clear. Where am I going? So He drops a city in my spirit. And then there's one that I stumbled upon, and I heard it's this one. So I show up on Sunday. And when I tell you that when I walked in, so everyone, just before I even got into the actual service, everyone was really friendly. I walked in while they were worshiping, and I want to say I was holding back tears. Like I almost wanted to start bawling, and it was more of like repentance of like, God, forgive me for not coming into your house sooner, but also just being overwhelmed by feeling the Holy Spirit and having this presence of the Holy Spirit. But I wasn't going consistently. Again, it was kind of going off my schedule if I could make it work. And then one day I just felt the nudge, like, you have to go, make it a priority. So I go. They're talking about you know how there's always that meme or people just kind of joking about how the pastor is in their business when they're during service. That's how I felt. The pastor was literally telling them my business that particular day. And I kept going week after week consistently. And then I hear like they were talking about getting connected, small groups, and that the new season was starting. So I'm like, okay, let me check it out. Also in a season of transition, I don't really have much community at this point. I had walked away from the team that I was working with. And my friendships are all basically kind of getting removed for the most part, with the exception of, in those two girls, fairly new friendships. I go in and I sign up for small groups, and I join. When I get there, and again, I didn't know what to expect. It's a whole thing. I'm new to being back in the church. And it was interesting how I'm not going to share what I've learned from some of the ladies, just out of respect. I don't want to put their business out there, but I did learn a lot about God revealed to me my heart posture. And during that season, I was like, I'm healing my hyper independence. He's put me in situations where I've truly relied on Him And I know we say we always surrender. And I'm like, I had surrendered a few years prior, but I mean, I didn't really fully surrender. I was lukewarm. I was personally convicted for New Age, like dabbling into New Age, and I've had to repent for it many times because I just felt like it's still kind of, it's not a chip on my shoulder, but it's something that I was like, I was blocking my relationship with God and blocking some of the things that He had for me or has for me because I wouldn't fully let go, and I still wasn't fully getting rid of everything. So I did go through, and I did realize that I was lukewarm. I was always a believer, and I had my relationship with God, but I still wasn't fully living in His will for what He had for me. And what His will is for your life versus what you want for your life aren't always the same. So your plans change, and it happens in His timing. So I got rid of anything that I had New Age, all the crystals, the pendulum went in the trash. I had books on like the chakras, crystals, all that stuff. Got rid of it. I'm realizing, and so at that point, I'm getting the lease is coming to an end. And I'm like, okay, God, do you want me to stay here? Like, where am I going? What do you have for me? You know me personally, or I've always been hyper independent. So over the years, God has been pruning me. Something that I had a lot of unforgiveness in my heart. One of my toxic traits was that if you do me dirty, you're dead to me. Like, I'm big on blocking people. I protect my peace. But I still had unforgiveness for people, even though I said I was done and they're not allowed and I don't want them in my space, or I don't need to have communication with them. I still had unforgiveness. So God was pruning me and softening my heart posture. And I went through a period where He had me go down the list and pray for everyone, to people that I felt like I still had unforgiveness for. And it would always happen when I was in the middle of a long drive. And He would drop someone's name in my spirit. I'd pray for them. And then it was like clockwork. Then the next person came up. The next person came up. And it was, I'm not going to lie, it was physically draining. And just praying for people. And not knowing exactly what it is that they're going through. And you're praying for them. And part of it's like, okay, well, do I still have any lingering unforgiveness towards them? Do they have stuff again towards me? Because you have to remember that even though sometimes they can be a villain in your story, you can also be the villain in other people's stories based on their perception. So I'm working through healing that, praying for that, and then like interceding for whatever they may be going through. And that was softening my heart posture. I also was one where I still struggle with this. I hate asking people for help. I've always been really independent. I prided myself in being a homeowner under the age of 30. I think I was 26 when I first bought first property. So I've always been in a really good place for the most part, and I've always been a hustler. But I always had ambition. But I prided myself in saying I accomplished this. Not so much God's hand and His favor was on this that happened. And so He's been pruning me into that and kind of having me rely on Him for different things, basically for everything. And I have a different series and a different playlist on healing my hyper independence and what He's currently doing in my life. But I can definitely say that God has put me in situations where I can see His hand has always been there for, whether He's been protecting me from different situations, different places where I feel like it was a divine connection, where you come across certain people and you needed to hear what they were saying, or they need to hear what you are saying to them, and He's using both parties as vessels to each other or confirmation. I've been in places where it was the right time, and there's other places where he's closed so many doors, and I know that he's closed them for a reason. I've been blessed. Even just the community, my community with my small group, I've never been around a group of ladies where it's literally pure love. There's no judgment. It's an open kind of, it's an open free space where you're able to express yourself. You're there to support each other, but you also it's rooted in Christ. So I'm blessed to be able to have that. It was a journey, to say the least. He's been there through the thick and thin. Never left me, never forsake me. During this journey, I've seen different verses to get me through the seasons. Romans 8:8, for all things work together for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. During the seasons of transition, when things are falling apart, I used to see it all the time. I literally just saw it yesterday. I saw it 3 times, and I was joking, and I'm like, God, what door are you closing? Later that day, I saw the protection in what was being closed. And during this journey, I've been able to increase my discernment. I've been blessed where there's times where God will drop, whether it's a verse, something in my spirit, a song. I'm going through this notebook a little bit to see if there's anything specifically that like kind of sums up a little bit of that season that I was going through. Or I guess those years. So, I just came across one thing that I forgot to mention. Those first 2 homes, the rentals that I was in, again, I prayed for protection. That next day, I found white feathers in the living room. And I just kept finding them. I think the first rental, I found a handful of them. When I moved into the second one, there was a handful of them kind of as I was cleaning and getting settled in. I kept finding feathers all over the house, and I didn't have those feathers in that last house. Another verse that stuck with me, 1:14, be still and let God fight for you. I don't know why I feel like I didn't realize that I had left this particular detail out when I was talking about hitting my head, and I just said it was vertigo or concussion. I have it written down here that it was actual head trauma that could have potentially taken me out. So God was literally giving me a second chance of life. But I'm going through some of this stuff, like, and as I stumbled upon that section, I can see on here, and I literally wrote full moon and X sign. And I'm like, even then, I'm like, I still, like, he gave me that second chance of life, but here I am still dabbling into new age. Another verse that got me through those seasons was Proverbs 3, verse 5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. Ecclesiastes 3:1, there is an occasion for everything and at a time for every activity under the heaven. Which confirmed everything that I was going through. Again, it was that season of separation, that wilderness season, and even though it felt like it just kept going on, God was pruning me. And there's been, even if I look at myself where I was a year ago, I was like, I don't fully recognize that person anymore. I'm so much softer. I can say that I've surrendered more into his will for my life. John 15:2, every branch in me that doesn't produce fruit, he removes. And he prunes every branch that produces fruit so that it will produce more fruit. That whole section about God as your vine in John 15, and it helped me. Side note, I wrote it down because I have sermon notes from Jerry Flowers. The series called Symptoms. He's got a whole playlist on it, and he talks about more of the pruning and being developed. And he helped me he was the one that actually helped me realize that I was being lukewarm and got me more into my word consistently. The story of Joseph and Abraham in the Old Testament also were really helpful during that transition when I was in the wilderness, because it gave me hope and faith. And of course, there's Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, but plans to give you hope in a future. And I noticed as I'm going through the notebook a little bit, I'm seeing different type of notes for the story of Joseph, and just reminding to forgive those who did you wrong. Your heart posture is blocking your blessings. And let us not get tired of doing good, for we will reap at the proper time if we don't give up. Galatians 6:9. Faith without works is dead. James 2:17. And then James 1:12 is, blessed is the one who endures trials, because he has stood the test, and he will receive the crown of life that God has promised to those who love him. James 1:3 is, testing your faith produces endurance. And James 1:4, let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. Even after everything happened with the roommate, I was still somewhat drinking. I wasn't binge drinking socially, I had cut it down a lot more. And then I kind of cold turkey was like, okay, I kind of feel like I should stop drinking. And it was, God kind of just removed the taste in my mouth for it. And he had put me in another season of separation. So I wasn't having any interactions outside of work or outside of my small groups. So there wasn't really any need for me to go out. He kind of removed me from any type of networking events, and it was literally the focus. I was still working, but I was doing different I was cold calling. And he had put me back in social media. And my free time was basically spent with him, in his word, sermons, small groups, or my family. That I had built friendships that were a little bit deeper, and they're rooted in Christ. I don't want to say completely, but I mostly tuned out all secular music, and that's just something I think everyone has different convictions. And also, I'm not saying I'm never going to go back to a club, a bar, anything like that. I think just in the season that God has me in, I can't be, and I'm kind of still in the season where I'm navigating being delivered by basically everything that was in my past, and being renewed, being a softer side of me, and still trying to navigate life, living in this world, but being spirit-led. Everyone's convictions are different. Some people have no issue. They can go. I don't know if I will ever step into a concert again. Just because I've seen a lot of the mainstream artists have like demonic type of performance, and I'm like, I'm just personally not going to put myself in that environment. And I think the hardest parts also, as you're navigating being back into the world, is when you're in that season of separation, everything's removed, right? And so it's God spending that time with you and pruning you. And then sometimes you reconnect with people from your past or former life, or that just didn't have access to you while you were in your season of separation, and you're trying to navigate whether these are friendships, relationships, that whether or not God still wants them to be a part of your life, or if that means they're just more acquaintances and they just can't be in your circle. And that's why it's always important to pray, to increase your wisdom and discernment, and kind of being in alignment and seeing what God really has for you. And it doesn't mean that sometimes they're bad people. They might not be led by the Spirit, or they might be believers, but they might be lukewarm, and they are still dabbling in what you have been delivered from, and you just can't be tempted in that season of your life that you're in. So this is a long video. I didn't think I was gonna ramble as much as I did. There's still so much that I didn't cover. Like, this notebook is almost full of stuff, and I barely touched it. I don't know if this is gonna be a series, an ongoing thing, or if there's gonna be different playlists for testimonies. I feel like there's gonna be one specifically for business. There's also the one about healing my hyper independence, and that's still an ongoing one. Then I feel like there's going to be one specific on relationships, and I feel like this one I kind of just rambled on. I was kind of a little bit all over the place, but if you're still watching, I hope that my testimony blessed you and helped you. This is my first time really opening up about my testimony. Stay tuned. I feel like I'm going to be creating more long form faith-based content. And remember, you can't have a testimony without a test. So have faith. Keep praying. Stay close to God. Surrender to Him. Let Him order your steps. He's going to guide you. Even if you steer the wrong direction, He's going to, just like that GPS, He's going to route you back to your destination. He's got you. Everything is happening for good. Everything works out. Stay blessed, and thanks for watching.